The concept of energy flow in the ecosystem, primarily governed by the laws of thermodynamics. So, the first law of thermodynamics is the law of conservation of energy, which simply means that energy is neither created nor destroyed, but it is just being converted into another form. To give you a best example, is the process of photosynthesis. So the solar energy coming from the sun is being converted into chemical energy through the process of photosynthesis. So as we discussed in the previous section on the process of photosynthesis, so light energy being used by plants is converted into chemical energy in the form of sugar, which is being used by the plants itself and the first order consumers as their form of energy. Okay, so that is the first law. The second law of thermodynamics is the law of degradation of energy, in which in any energy conversion na nangyayari, you will end up with less usable energy than you started with. So, ibig sabihin that the conversion of energy from one form to another is not 100%. So, nababawasan po siya as it goes to the last energy conversion. So, sa ano po yung nababawas? That is po in the form of heat, which is a wasteful form of energy. Okay. So in terms of feeding relationship, may dalawang klase pong concept na pinag-uusapan dito. You have food chain and the food web. Pag sinabi niyo pong food chain, it's just a series of eating and being eaten. So linear lang po yan siya. Nagsa-start doon sa producers up to the last order consumer. But when you say food web, ibig sabihin po niyan interconnecting food chains na napaka-complex po nun. And then, so, may mga ibang organisms that can eat a wide variety of food, kaya nagiging complex din po yung food web. Okay. So in terms of species interaction, meron po tayong different types. You have mutualism, commensalism, competition, and predation. So you can actually observe the characteristic of the species interaction in this particular table. So you have also the food pyramid. Yan. So ang food pyramid po ay may tatlong klase. You have the pyramid of numbers, you have the pyramid of energy, and you have the pyramid of biomass. Okay. So pyramid of numbers is actually the desired number of organisms per trophic level. You have the pyramid of energy, which represents the energy that is being transferred from one trophic level to another, and you have the pyramid of the biomass, still the measurement of the biomass in each trophic level. So as you can see in the structure of the pyramid, at the base you have the producers. So the desired the number of producers is actually much higher than the second order, which is the primary consumer, and so on. Okay. So for the last topic, we're going to discuss the kinds of ecosystem. Primarily, if we say ecosystem, dalawang klase, you have terrestrial and you have aquatic ecosystem. Okay. So a biome is a biological community with different climatic condition, growth patterns, and vegetation type. So in the terrestrial biome, meron po tayong tundra. Ito po ay characterized ng ice or pagkakaroon ng permafrost. Okay? So kung ito ay medyo malamig, actually this water in this particular area is actually considered as a limiting factor. It is because water is in the form of ice, which cannot be used by the organisms. And another biome which in water is a limiting factor is the desert. But do not confine your thinking that in desert wala pong ulan, umuulan po. Kaso nga lang, that happens pwedeng isang beses sa isang taon. That's why the characteristic of organisms there, particularly plants, do have their storage or water storage structures within their body. Okay? And we have on the flat area, you have the grassland. So, alam niyo na po kung anong ang dominating species. We have the grasses. Ayan. So, maraming species of grasses po dito. So, it's divided as in tropical savanna, you have the steep or dry cold grassland, you have prairie grassland. Ayan. So, technically, yun lang po. It's dominated by grasses. And of course, you have forests, which is divided into coniferous forest or the taiga. You have temperate deciduous forest and the tropical rainforest. For the coniferous forest, ito po yung medyo malapit sa tundra na area which is dominated by conifers. Yan po yung sa figure na to. And you have temperate deciduous forest. Tinawag po siyang deciduous kasi ang leaves upon changing the season, particularly from fall to winter, nag-change po siya from green to other colors like of orange and yellow before entering winter. Kasi po, gini-give off po ng mga trees ang kanilang leaves prior to that season. And of course, yung pinaka-common sa atin, you have the tropical rainforests. Ayan. So technically, naulan po talaga sa area na to. So mataas ang level of precipitation. And in terms of productivity, higher productivity in terrestrial biome is recorded in tropical rainforests. Yan. So if you have terrestrial, you have also aquatic biome. So these are the different aquatic ecosystems, which is primarily separated by in terms of the level of salinity, you have freshwater and you have saltwater ecosystem. So for freshwater, you have lakes. These are large impounded waters. Okay, so lakes in comparison with to a pond, ang lakes po kasi we have the inlet of water and you have the outlet of water. Okay? May inlet siya, may outlet siya. When you try to compare it with pond, ang pond kasi ang nag-feed lang ng water doon sa pond ay yung precipitation itself. So kung walang precipitation over a long period of time, nagda-dry po yung pond and then it will be supplied with water when precipitation comes. So if you have the lakes, you have oligotrophic and you have eutrophic. So medyo clear po ang oligo, medyo blurred or turbid po ang eutrophic lakes. Ayan, yun yung pinagkaiba ng dalawa. And you have these different zones of the lake, as you can read. So makikita nyo po sa figure, you have the littoral zone na may vegetation, limnetic zone near the surface, open waters. You have the profundal zone next to the limnetic zone. And you have the benthic zone. Always remember, pag benthic, it is associated with the sediment, the deeper part of the lakes or bodies of water. Okay, so you have also rivers and streams. Most probably, its characteristic is they are flowing. Okay, but we will try to vary river from stream in terms of width and depth. So rivers are much wider and deeper as compared to streams, which are actually in some instances can be tributaries of major rivers. Okay. So marine ecosystem is characterized by higher salinity. Okay. So the concentration of dissolved salts like sodium chloride in water. So we have first you have the major oceans or open ocean. Ayan. So may different levels din siya or different parts. So the euphotic, the basal, and abyssal zone. Yan. So coral reefs primarily dominated with corals. Association of its substrate primarily composed of calcium carbonate, and of course the animals that attach to it is called the polyps or the zooxanthellae. Yan ang tawag sa organisms na yun. And you have estuarine ecosystem. Ito po yung pagitan ng freshwater at saltwater ecosystem or tinatawag ding brackish water ecosystem. Ayan. So, ang estuarine usually dominated by mangrove area. So, marshland, wetland po siya. Ito po yung pag umapaw yung river at yung kung saan umaabot yung tubig, okay, nai-impound doon yung water. Usually, it forms the marsh. Okay? Pag wetland naman, ayan, so ganun din siya. Nagpo-form din ng ano, at nagpo-form din ng water. Yan, from flowing sources. But then, um, ganon. So, both marsh and wetlands are have their main sources ng water, major water ecosystem, but nag-overflow kaya nag-occupy in that particular area. So we've also mangrove ecosystem primarily dominated by mangroves, but most of the mangrove ecosystem are situated in brackish water or estuarine ecosystem. Okay?